Welcome, everybody, to episode 11 of Fitness, Food, and Fun. Today, I'm joined by my friend and guest, Nicole Hoffman, the founder of Quar Fitness. And so, Nicole, a couple other things about you that I know. You're kind of a little bit of a serial entrepreneur. You also had started a baking company.
Mhm.
In addition to throw that one in, because I think that's going to be great for us when we get to the food section. But when I met you, you were a big runner, and I'm stealing this directly off of your Quar Fitness page. You run 5 full marathons, more than you can count on half marathons, and then other, 5K, 10K races. On top of that, I'm going to throw in that I think maybe your greatest accomplishment in fitness is finding your chain smoking husband and turning him into an elite marathon runner. I think you could probably just say, hey, in the grand scheme of things, checking the box. I've saved somebody's life, right? On top of that,
Right.
I believe you've been a Pilates instructor since 2015. Okay, if there's anything I missed or anything you want to fill us in on, please do.
And I think that's it. You covered the gist of it. Yeah, I've been a Pilates instructor. That was my real fitness entry since late 2015, early 2016. I have run my whole life, lots and lots and lots. The one thing we'll get into is when we talk more about quads. I have 2 kids as well, and fitness is like a huge part of our whole family outlook on life. So
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really interesting one and a different aspect than anyone's talked about before. We haven't had kids in on the fitness conversation so far. And speaking of kids, how did fitness come into your life? You just mentioned that you've been running your entire life.
yeah.
How did you get into it?
So, I think like most people, you get into fitness because you want to look and feel good. And in college, I started running pretty seriously. I would run every day. It was really a great stress relief. I continued running through my adult life. As you mentioned, I met my husband and I transformed a person who hated running and never wanted to run into an ultra marathoner, a seated marathoner. You could do a whole show just about Justin. And so when I was getting a little bit older and as I would continue to run into my adult years, my body started to be a little bit affected by it. So I wanted to really look into cross training. And this was about the 2013 time frame when studio fitness was becoming a little bit more approachable than it had been in the past. So I looked up what are good workouts for cross training, and Pilates came up, and I'd always wanted to try Pilates. So I literally punched it into the computer in Google. I said Heights, which is the neighborhood that I live in, and Pilates, and I found a studio. And I remember the very first class I went to, it was reformer Pilates, which is on a big machine, and put my hands down, started on a plank on the reformer. And it was minute one of 50. I looked to my friend who was there with me. I'm like, is it going to be this hard the entire class? But after the 50-minute class, which it is hard, I was hooked immediately. You couldn't stop me doing it. So it is a wonderful exercise for the body. It is something you can do when you're two, well, on a mat. It's something you can do young, middle-aged, old, any age, any stage. I hope to be doing it when I'm 80. And so I got really hooked on Pilates. And then I got really hooked on studio fitness in general, the community that it creates, and have become it's become a big part of my life. And it's something that I do quite a bit of in many different ways here in Houston.
So going back to wind you back a little bit more to Euclid again and say, besides running, was there anything else that you did?
No, I really, I really didn't. I ran and I thought that was all I needed to do. I didn't really lift weights. I would occasionally do yoga class, but it wasn't something that I was super interested in. At the point that I tried Pilates, there was really not much else that I was interested in. I ran and running was taking a toll on my body and I needed to do something else. And when I found that, I immediately connected with it. It's a workout that you leave feeling, I feel good. I needed that. My body's just changed. Whereas like sometimes now I do everything, right? Now I do spin, I do hit, I lift weights. And I think a lot of that changes too as you age and your body gets older and your needs change a little bit too. But Pilates it's extremely effective. You can do it. I started on the reformer and I only ever did reformer Pilates, but mat Pilates is like the basis for the whole thing. And it wasn't until this past quarantine that I really got into mat Pilates. And then that's where core came out of it as well. So yeah, no, I wasn't doing anything else. And it became my number one go-to exercise.
Yeah, and that's good. And another thing that I realized over time talking to people, and nowadays a lot of people are getting very specialized in sports. Where it used to be, I would say when we were growing up, it was more like you kind of play everything, except if you're Nicole, you just run, right? You're just gonna run and be a runner. But what that leads into a bit is injuries, and what you were just talking about is getting into that to kind of alleviate some of the stress and pain on your body. So I think that is a good transition for us to say, what is fitness in your life today? And I think that's where Quar comes in as well.
So we got started. Let's see, I need to back up just a little bit to get to this part. But I was teaching studio fitness up until 2020. I still do. I will still occasionally teach in studio. But when we went into all of this came out of the pandemic, right? When everybody went into lockdown, we didn't have studio fitness for a while. And so what we ended up doing is transitioning into Instagram lives. So all the teachers at the studio I would work at would take their pick, do Instagram lives. And at one point, I remember I taught a class and I had my whole family do it with me because everybody was home. So we all did it together. And then as we started to open back up, and we opened here in Texas a lot sooner than I think most of the rest of the country did. So as we started to open back up, people were still interested and a little bit scared to go back into class. And then that's where the whole Quar Fitness kind of came out of, right? It's Quar comes from coming out of quarantine, right? That's where it was formed. That's where it was created. It's all online, on demand fitness classes. So it started just being something focused on Pilates and mat Pilates and just that. But as I mentioned, I have two children. My daughter's a competitive gymnast. My son plays competitive soccer and was previously a competitive gymnast. My husband has been an at home workouter, if you will, most of his life as well. So he uses the kettlebell and what we call functional fitness, where it's just body weight. So we kind of put all that stuff together and said, hey, look, I think we can do something, right? We've got the Pilates, we've got the kettlebell workouts, and then we have these two kids who've been around me the entire time I've been teaching in studio, watching me playing on the microphone, that they've learned enough of the vernacular and have the ability to lead a class that they are now teaching what we call kids fitness, which draws from what they've learned from me, which draws from their gymnastics training, which draws from just having fun. I mean, their videos are hysterical. They initially it was me teaching the kids, and that was kid fitness. But pretty soon they're like, we want to teach. So not only do they teach, they create their own classes, they teach their own classes. Sometimes they teach together. And like I said, it's really they're really funny and they're really good. And Justin, my husband, also teaches the functional fitness classes. So it's something for everyone. And it's something we live in this house. It's not just a business. It's a lifestyle. Our fitness is key to our family, right? We don't want to spend all of our money on the doctor's bills and we don't want to age ungracefully. We want to be the healthiest people that we can be for as long as we can be that way. We want to raise kids that are strong and healthy and set themselves up for success in life. So eating, fitness, sport, working out, wellness in general is something that we preach and do every day. It's very important to our entire family. And they know the message, right? And they say the message and they live the message. We don't go to McDonald's and we don't eat sugary snacks for breakfast. It's something that we really put a lot of focus on in our own household. And my husband's 48. I'm about to turn 45, and I feel like we can keep up with the 25-year-olds. I mean, I'm never going to be a 25-year-old again, but I go to classes all the time now too with 20-year-olds, and I watch my kids on the floor and on the field, and they're holding their own and excelling, and it's just something that keeps your mind right, keeps your body right, and keep you good for a long time.
Like the Tom Brady family, forever. So a
It
couple
makes a big
that
It
I
makes
have,
a big difference. It makes a big difference though, right? Like, knock on wood, we stayed healthy throughout this time. Anytime anybody's gotten sick, it's recovery's been quick and easy. And so I think our lifestyle does play a role in a lot of that. Is
yeah, I think it's not about if you live that kind of lifestyle, like being superhuman. It's about those things like the recoveries or their inflammation, or I like just, do you feel just a little bit better in your exercise, which ends up, you keep building upon that, right? And those are the differences. Or just like I did a workout and I need a lot of recovery versus
Mhm.
my body recovers pretty quick
Right.
again tomorrow. And that allows you to improve.
That body awareness part of it is really important too, because we've not been without injury, right? Like I have had severe foot problems my entire life. It's kind of a hereditary problem that's then since impacted my hips and my joints, and I was down. I couldn't run for a couple of years, and that's really where Pilates became an even bigger part of my life because I could run. And then my children, they see a physical therapist regularly, especially my daughter, like I said, the competitive gymnast. It's also knowing your body and knowing when something should be pain because it's sore versus pain because, you're really hurt. And I see a lot of that as an instructor where I see people being like, oh, it hurts. I can't do it. But you got to know which hurt is the right one and take those people, particularly like if you're rehabbing somebody, take those people to get over the fear of pain, but then also to understand their body and when you need to take a break. I'm much better at taking breaks now than I used to be. I did something crazy to my back a couple of weeks ago doing burpees, and nobody likes burpees, and it wasn't good, but I do. Okay, you got to rest. And if it doesn't get better in a couple days with rest, then we go see a doctor. We don't just run to the emergency room. We evaluate, we look at what needs to happen and go from there. And it's fine now. So
What and I got so many thoughts with everything that you just said. And one of the first things is it's a sort of a you never know, right? And some of the best businesses come out of situations like Zoom, which we're using for example, flourished heavily because of COVID. You talked about how your business basically was born out of you being an instructor and then having to deal with it, and then coming up with this new concept of functional family fitness,
yeah.
uh, you know, online. And then the other thing I thought about when you were talking about is I always think about when kids have experiences, right? When they're young and if whether you want to call like they're groomed or they just have this support around them, you wonder like where can they get to? Or sometimes when you see people accomplish amazing things, you're like, how did you do what you did? And then you talk to them and you find out, well, yeah, we started doing a fitness class when we were, 10 and 12 years old. So you've created that environment for them. You have some thoughts on those two aspects.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's really, that's another thing. One of the things I've always done really well in life, and I think it has helped me as a fitness instructor, is be a really good presenter. Like I can stand in front of 1,000 people and be able to speak in front of those people. And so many, and this is like not exactly fitness related, but with the kids, it's building that confidence to present themselves, to command a room, to be able to speak effectively, to be able to translate, to encourage. They typically teach just to the video, but we've done a few live events in this past year and the kids teach. They don't get away with not doing anything. And so they have to be in front of a group. They have to learn how to pace their voice. They have to learn how to create a routine that makes a lot of sense. So it gives them an immense amount of personal self-confidence as well, which is what I think fitness and sports in general do. I think when you see many people that start from like low end, if you will, and not doing anything, they're just sitting on their couch, but they begin a fitness program. You see as an instructor, as a person, their transformation. And I think that's why so many people enjoy being fitness instructors. As we were talking about, that it's not really the money. It is the transformation of people and watching them step out of their shells, being able to do something that is beyond what they thought that they could do before. And that's one of the things about Quar as well. It is not meant, I mean, it's meant for everyone, but when we developed it with that family in mind, right? The one that's stuck at home in Wisconsin in the middle of the winter, snowed in, a stay at home mom, 4 kids, maybe dad's at home working virtually. And they don't know what they can and they can't do. The workouts are all very accessible to all levels. You can level up, you can level down. We provide options. You don't need a lot of equipment in your house. You just need yourself and your screen. And it's a much better way to approach fitness if you're scared or if you don't know where to go or what to do. That's really who this is built for.
One of the things that you just said was basically you talked about the flexibility in the workouts you provide. And earlier you said, I've had to change my workout as time has gone by and I've gotten older. So can you talk a little bit about like, what's that been like? What's the adjustment been like? And maybe what you've taken into consideration from learning from that and then passing that on to the experiences you're giving people.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one thing was, a lot of us, especially when we're younger, and to be honest, I'm sure a lot of women, men probably too, work out to stay thin or fit or look good in their clothes. And so they tend to put a big focus on cardio. As you heard me say earlier, right? All I ever did was run. I mean, running is great for so many aspects of things, but especially as you get older and your muscle mass starts to kind of change, lifting weights is something that's really important to both men and women. And women panic that they're going to get big and bulky if they're lifting weights. One thing that happened because of my foot, I had an ankle problem earlier this year. So I couldn't do any running. I could barely do spin, but I could do Pilates and I could stand. So I started lifting weights. And that's when you see, like with kettlebells and Justin's workouts, he gives you lots of options to work with heavier weights, right? Or you start light, you work heavy, but less cardio, more weightlifting, a little bit of less hit, more all body, that natural body movement that you get from Pilates and functional fitness. And I think those are some of the things that as I've morphed into an older middle-aged person, my body can tolerate better, right? I can't go out running streets every day. It Now Justin still can, but he doesn't run as many miles as he used to. And just the wear and tear on your body is a little bit too much. So you have to combine that with weightlifting. He's always been on my case about lifting weights. And the more I've done it in this past year, the more transformation I've seen in my own body and the strength that I feel through some of the injuries that I've had myself. The recovery period's been a little less. That body awareness has been a lot higher. And then with the kids, same thing, they play year-round sports, both of them. And with Holly, she does the gymnastics as well as the kid fit stuff. But so it's a really well-rounded sport. They touch all aspects of their body. But with Cameron, he plays soccer and does like UFC fighting along with the kids fitness. But the soccer, it's very repetitive. It's very repetitive. Same leg, same leg. So we're always on his case about starting to lift weights, doing your workouts, making sure you're getting those other workouts in to protect your body so that you don't get injured with that repetitive sports motion. And I think it's really, creating good old people is our goal in a lot of ways. I went to a workshop a few years ago. It was a Pilates workshop, and the instructor, she said, our job is to make good old people. And that has stuck with me my entire fitness career is that's our job, right? We want to reach the later years of life being able to do stuff, still run around with your grandkids and still be able to keep up with the youngsters.
That's such a good saying. It's gonna stick with me too. And it's honestly like a lot of what I've been thinking about now. Because and this is for anybody that starts thinking about long term, I think, but especially when you have kids, you start to think about how can I be around for them? How can I be around for them? How can I be around for when their kids come around, and maybe their kids if you can you can really get there. But it's good that you guys have this mentality and this program that adjusts everything for everyone. And part of the idea of this podcast and how it was born was to take people, extraordinary people, especially from like the fitness world, like yourself, someone that's started their own fitness business, and make them relatable to everybody out there. And I think a lot of people get intimidated, especially older people, to come in and do something in the gym or anything that's foreign to them. But I think if they were or to attend your class, for example, they'd be very comfortable because you have something that would fit their movement and their ability.
Well, and that's one thing about core too. I've been around long enough and I've kind of, you mentioned my baking business and other things. I got into fitness when I got laid off. And I started teaching Pilates not long after that. But at the same time, I threw a lot of stuff at the wall trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. I looked at having my own studio. I looked at multiple different things. And all those are great, but core really stuck because of kind of what you're talking about there. It's not fancy, right? If you watch our videos, we film in our garage. It's not some big studio. It's not super fancy. We film on a phone, but all that stuff is so great now that you don't really need anything super fancy to do it. But we wanted our growth to be organic, right? We weren't setting out to get 1 million followers the first day. It is our intention that we build our following organically through friends, through things like this, through our events. Because what we do is we take so much feedback from the clients. We develop our programs based on what we're hearing from the clients. So if you go onto the website, for example, and you look at um, the Pilates section, you'll see there's two things. There's Pilates and then there's what we call beginner basics.
Mm.
And beginner basics came out of one of our clients saying, I'm new to this game and some of the stuff you're doing in the Pilates class I can't keep up with. So can you slow it down and break it down a little bit more? And that's where beginner basics came from. And then functional fitness used to be just doing kettlebells, but now we're morphing into the addition of just natural body movement. And again, that was something that came out of people being like, well, I don't have a kettlebell or I don't even know where to get a kettlebell. There's more of them available now than there were during the pandemic. But, that's the idea behind all this is to be approachable, to be accessible. Same thing with the kids, right? Kids don't want to watch me teaching my kids how to do stuff. They want to see people their own age. They want somebody that can speak their own language. So anyone that joins, I'm constantly seeking feedback from the clients and we incorporate it. We always do our best to make a class for you. Like there's a stretch class in the kids fitness that one of our clients whose daughter is a dancer, her evaluation at dance class was that she wasn't flexible enough. So she asked me if we could do a stretch class for the kids. That's where that came from. We really build it based on you. And there's so many options within each class. They're meant to be done over and over again so that you can really get good at them and start to take those up levels and just do what works for you. It's not it doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need you don't need a bike. You don't need any of that stuff. You just need yourself and the willingness to try something, to do something different.
I think the kids teaching the kids fitness aspect is a really unique thing, and I feel like that's going to grow into something really big. And you guys could be pioneers in this area, and who knows, maybe that ends up being like the norm. You just start seeing that everywhere. I think that's really interesting. I think this is a great time for us to. We're going to transition into the food section. So you mentioned your baking business, and we'll get into that a little bit more because I'm going to ask you about your splurgy items. But but you also talked about how you guys are clean eaters. So I just want to say, what's food like every day in the Hoffman household?
Well, we are very clean eaters. We kind of follow the 80-20 rule, right? We eat clean most of the time, but if somebody wants a burger or pizza, we're not gonna say no. One of the things that we do that I think is really important and is hard is sometimes is we try to make most everything we can from the ground up. We don't buy a lot of processed food. Now, don't get me wrong. My kids have snacks and they have potato chips and they have all that kind of stuff too. But I make a hot breakfast for my kids every morning, eggs, or some kind of like pastry or something my daughter will eat or fruit. I make their lunch every single day. And in that, we often have like the sandwich or pasta or something, the leftovers from the previous night's dinner. But like I said, what we try to do is really steer clear of as much processed food as we possibly can. So I make my own sauce. I make my own broth. I make my own cookies, or so if the kids want cookies, I'm going to make chocolate chip cookies, which are real versus buying cookies at the store. And that, again, not all the time, but a lot of the time. We don't, if I'm making vegetables for dinner, I steam the vegetables. There's no need to fry them or put butter on them or do any of that stuff. If you start that immediately, like no butter, no cheese, none of that stuff on, your kids learn to appreciate the taste of the vegetable, right? You don't need those other things on top of it. I try to make sure they get fruit, a vegetable, protein. My daughter's a super picky eater, right? So it's something that we work really hard to make sure that she gets the right nutrients. Smoothies are huge in our family. My kids love smoothies. I throw in protein powder, put all the good stuff in it, chia seeds if she needs it, and, just try to make sure they're getting all the food groups. It's not rocket science. It's just time and consideration. I try to buy organic as much as possible. It's more expensive, but again, I mentioned doctor's bills earlier. I'd rather spend my money on food. Our food budget's probably pretty high, right? In comparison to the north. I do a lot of shopping at Whole Foods and Trader Joe's and Sprouts and farmers markets if I have access to them. If I had a green thumb, I'd have a garden, but I kill everything. So that's not been very successful up until this point. My neighbor has chickens. If I can get my hands on her eggs, I'll take them. You know what I mean? So anytime I can really try to get natural foods is the best. And it's important. Like I try to steer clear of the dyes, right? The red dye and in the kids' food. So they can sell junk food like Cheez-Its. They use, and I don't know if you can use the name, but Cheez-Its uses paprika to color their little squares, right? And so does Goldfish. They don't use the red dye. So it's just a matter of kind of like looking at things and making sure that you are paying attention.
Yeah, learn something new every day. I didn't know that. So I discovered I really love paprika too. But first thing I wanted to say was I'm going to work on getting adopted into the Hoffman household so I can get these hot breakfasts every morning
And I know.
and all my healthy meals. But now I want to get you to talk a little bit about, you've mentioned your 80-20. I want you to talk a little bit about your 20, what you guys have there. What are the things that you really like to splurge on? And maybe a little bit about the baking business that you had, because that's
Yeah, sure.
side of things.
So we in our house usually like one night a week is kind of when we do like takeout or something like that. The family, it varies person to person, but pizza is huge in our family. Pizza is really, really big thing for us. So we'll order pizza maybe like one night a week. Or Justin will often do that if he's going to do a long run. So it fuels you well for a long run. Everybody here likes burgers. Burgers are a big deal in Texas. They're a big deal in our house. There's some really great burger joints around town. So those are big things. Holly, my youngest, she has a real sweet tooth. So we actually have to temper that a little bit. It's her birthday today, and her request for her breakfast was Pop Tarts and pancakes. And I don't buy Pop Tarts. It's not in our normal rotation. But I got them for her birthday, and I'm shocked to see that 60% of your day's sugar is included in 2 Pop Tarts.
Oh,
Uh, just FYI. But we have candy in the house. Like my kids we take the Halloween candy and we pack it all up and then put it in like a bottom cupboard. And so they can have like a piece of candy every day if they want as their dessert or, something like that. I'll say one other thing. This isn't really splurge, but we do not drink soda in this house. We absolutely don't put it in the house. We don't drink it in the house. So if the kids get a soda when we go out to eat or something like that, that's a big treat for them. For those of you out there who are kind of like addicted to soda or can't see a way around it, we drink flavored sparkling water all the time. We love it. Everybody in the house loves it. The kids call it fizzy water. Sometimes we mix it with a little bit of OJ to give yourself a nice little treat there. Um, I'll keep a little bit of Hershey's chocolate syrup in the refrigerator. And so sometimes we make a chocolate milk or for my own personal dessert, I often have cherries and I put chocolate syrup on top of it. And that's kind of like my nighttime treat to myself. And so we do splurge. We don't go too crazy, but we have our moments.
if I was to say, what's like the one thing if I put it in front of you? Put it,
Me personally or my family.
I'm going for you right now, but if you got
French fries. French fries are my nemesis. I cannot put them in front of me without it. It does. They can be cold. They can be old. They can be.
really,
They are. Yes, it is. It's like a real problem for me. You can't. I never order them. I'll eat my kids sometimes, but they are my Achilles heel. I have a full fledged addiction to French fries. Only potato fries, like not sweet potato fries French fries, and I really like tater tots too. I can control myself there.
yeah, I love some tater tots too. I think I love the most about that, it doesn't matter what state the French fries are in, you're all in. They've been
Well,
well, give me those French fries.
there's a lot of times when we'll be sitting at like the dinner table or something, especially if we go out to eat, because that's usually the only time French fries come into play. Where I'll catch myself sitting there eating there, and they'll be like, "Justin, get this away from me. You gotta physically remove the plate from my area, or I will be able to stop myself."
I love it. I can get a kick out of that. I'm not going to forget that one.
Just
Oh,
to tell you that one little brief story on that too. When I lived in San Diego before I moved to Connecticut, when I met you the first time, and it was myself, my husband, and one of my good friends from high school. We all lived there at the same time. And I used to eat French fries so often that we all found ourselves getting a little chubby. And we said we needed to boycott French fries. So my husband's from the UK. So we called it the Great Shit Boycott of 2004. We had t-shirts made. So 1 month. And it was 1 month. And it was like the hardest month of my entire life.
that's not. Well, I know how to motivate you now. If I need you to do anything, I'll be like, hey, I got some French fries. Are you in? Will you do this?
Yeah,
So French
anything for
is something that brings you a lot of joy. So I think it's a good time to transition into the fun section of this. Let's talk about what you guys do for fun. And obviously as a whole family, you're doing fitness together and I'm sure there's fun there, but what other activities what are good times for you?
Gosh, we're so busy with like all the normal stuff, right, that we have to do. But things we really like to do, we love to travel, right? My family's pretty much a traveling family. It's been tough this past 2 years with not being able to. But the kids, my husband's from Scotland. And so we've gone to Scotland since they were babies every couple of years. And a few years ago, we started to branch out and go different places. We took a big trip to Scandinavia in 2019, where we went to Norway, Finland, and Sweden. The kids were amazing. They loved it. We didn't get to do so much of that, right, since the pandemic and stuff. So we transitioned into more local trips, and hiking became a real big thing with the family. Now, Justin, my husband, has actually taken the kids on a couple solo hiking trips. So he and my son go for a week in the summer, and then we'll take the kids, or we'll all go together. So that was something that wasn't something we did before, but became something that we really enjoyed to do as a family. They like to watch We like to watch movies. I don't typically go to the movies as much as they do, but we all like to do that. We love to swim in the summer. It's so hot here and there's nothing else we can do. Let's see what else. A lot of our life revolves around fitness, right? So for fun, we go, there's Justin and Cameron go to the UFC gym, and Holly and I go to like gymnastics stuff. And so they did the Simone Biles tour was here in Houston last weekend, and my daughter got to dance in it as a Gold Squad member. So kind of, events and things like that. We don't follow American sport quite as much because of, my husband's from the UK. So my son will watch a lot of soccer and do things like that. Or just hang out. One thing I think the pandemic was really good for us, and maybe a lot of other families out there too, we just like to hang out. Like we like to do little dance parties in our living room, and just laugh and sit around the dinner table and talk and spending time. We didn't spend as much time before, and now we do. And it's been really nice. And doing this business as a family has been really, really good. It's kind of We're a pretty tight unit here. We don't have any family in the area, and so we really are tight with the 4 of us. And don't think we're, like, perfect. We fight all the time. We enjoy just spending time together, really.
Yeah, I love hearing about when people just enjoy the simple things. You just get enjoyment out of the simple things. You don't need to do anything super special. But if I was to ask you, you've got one, you mentioned that you really like travel, right? What's either like next, what's the place you really want to go to, or what's the favorite place that you've been? What would be your ultimate trip right now?
We talk about this all the time, Andy, actually. It's really funny that you asked that. It's one of the things we do. We, like, sit around and go, "Okay, where should we go next?" So my husband and I met in Singapore. We were both living and working there, and Asia is top of our list of places we want to take the kids. We feel like they're old enough now to really appreciate it. And Europe, there's a lot of places in Europe the kids want to go to. My daughter really wants to go to Paris. My son really wants to go. He's a huge Ronaldo fan, so he really wants to go to like Portugal and Spain. I'm Italian. We all want to go to Italy. New Zealand's on the list of places. So those are kind of, and Iceland is another one. So that's like, those are the list of places that we have sussed out right now in terms of where we want to go next. We're not, my kids and I love the beach, but my husband, he's an activities guy, right? So he wants to go anywhere where he can like climb a mountain or ride a bike or run a trail or do something like that. So it's usually how we plan our trips is based on activities.
Yeah, you laid out a pretty awesome list of. I think I want to go do all those things. But interesting parallel was when we were planning our honeymoon. My wife was thinking of all these beaches where she was going to lay down, and I'm like, well, what else can you do? Because it can only do that for so many days. They had to go on 2 weeks honeymoon. Like for her, she could do that for 2 weeks straight, and that would be great. But I needed some other things, so we luckily we ended up picking a destination where we went down to Tahiti, and
Good, that is.
there was luckily like,
That's on my list.
yeah, it. You know what? It's interesting because most places when you go there, you're like, maybe the pictures and how they sold it and everything were a little more than what it was. But this was the opposite. I felt like seeing everything in person was even more dramatic than pictures, yeah, and videos that you saw. You really couldn't believe your eyes with like the water was amazing. The land, the cliffs, the plants. It was just so it was unbelievable. I'm into not really going to the same places again, but I would go.
Yeah. It's, it's interesting because, well, my parents have a house in Arizona, so we go out there all the time, right? That's kind of our go-to place. But right before the pandemic, June 2020, we were planning a trip for June to go to Hawaii. Justin and I have never really had like a huge interest in going to Hawaii because we feel like everybody kind of goes there. But we figured it was the best place for our family, right? Because there would be something for every single person to do, right? There would be the beach day, there would be the dolphin day, there would be the hiking day, there would be the running day, there would be something for everyone. And that's what we were planning to do. We ended up having to cancel it, but maybe we should go to Tahiti instead. It's beginning to sound like
You know,
much better deal for me.
yeah, and there's I don't remember what the count of islands is that's within Tahiti. If it's like it's over 100, so I don't know, it's like 100, if I'm not mistaken. But there's so many that you can choose, and you can hop around those too when you're down there, and they're all different experiences. So you've got that option too. So put that one on your chart.
My list. It's going on my list right now.
So now we're at the capstone.
Oh, yeah.
It's food and fun. How do you see it in your life? How do you see those things? Are they
But
intermittent?
well, I think they are like the cornerstone of our life, right? Fitness and food and fun, they all go hand in hand. I think we love to eat here in this house. We love to eat healthfully. We love to eat well. We love to do fitness. Everybody in the house does fitness at a high level. It's fun. We all enjoy it. Nobody's going out there and saying this workout sucks. I don't want to do it, or this class wasn't fun. And, it really is in our family with Quar and all of that. It really is the cornerstone of our life. If you ask anybody about the Hoffmans, they're going to tell you, oh, they're the fit family. They're the ones that teach the classes and do all the stuff and are lifting weights in their garage because we love it and we love what it does for us and fueling your body to support that and eating really good food to taste it. And just having a good time all around. But my son is a very adventurous eater as well. So we love to take him to new and exciting places and try things and really experience what life has to offer. It's really important to us. We work hard, we play hard, and the more you can combine those two together, the better off we're going to be. It is my ultimate goal to make for my full time job, my full time business, because it is what personally I'm passionate about, and my family is very supportive in that effort, and so it's number one, I think, in our lives. Those three things.
That's pretty cool. And I think it's funny when I think about this. You guys are kind of like your own local neighborhood Incredibles,
Yeah, and I'm like,
all movie or not, but you guys are like running around the Incredibles. Even the kids are teaching classes, which is really awesome.
I think it's funny though too. I mean, we are special in that, but it's accessible to anyone. Can be the same way. Anyone can move their body, get up and dance. You don't have to be a star player. You just have to be. You just have to move, and you just have to smile when you're doing it and enjoy what you're getting out of it.
And that's such a perfect close for this podcast and the intent of it to let anybody know that you can do all of these things. But I'd just like to say thank you for joining me today. Really
Thank you.
appreciate you taking the time out to do it. And I'll give you a chance to plug Core a little bit, let people know where they can find you and follow you. And if there's anything else about it that you would like people to know.
You know that. Thank you so much for having me. I mean, I'd love to talk about all this stuff. So it really was a lot of fun, and anyone can always DM me and we can chat more. But if you want to buy Quar, it's online on demand fitness program. So it's fitness for the family. We offer those three modalities, right? There's Pilates, functional fitness, and our Kid Fit Kids Fitness. It is www dot quar, QUAR dash fitness.com. So quar, QUAR dash fitness.com. Sign up today. If you use the code quar friend, all one word, QUAR friend, FRIEND, you get 25% off your membership in perpetuity forever. Your first week is always free. So you can get on, you can try out all the classes for 1 week for free. And if you email me, both those email addresses on the website come to me, and any feedback that you have or anything you want to see or want to do, let me know and we'll incorporate it, right? That's the whole idea. Quard's family, the whole thing. You're part of our family once you join the team. So yeah, come check us out. We'd really love to see you there.
I'll put all the links into the Instagram post, but I have to also say that probably the best offer I've ever heard for a lifetime discount for a program. So people take advantage of that. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.